Hey guys, it's the Wandering Wind, and I just wanted to share something I love with you guys. Here recently, I've been watching quite a few episodes of different anime through the free streaming service that we get through Spectrum TV, which used to be Time Warner. And thank you, Spectrum, for making this free. Anyway, here lately I've been watching quite a few different anime, and I have a top 5 list for you today that I hope you guys will love just as much as I do. Now, first of all is Dimension W. Started watching this as soon as we got the cable service because I noticed, hey, what's this? We get Adult Swim. Nice. And Adult Swim actually has its own streaming library, and it's got all 12 episodes of Dimension W. Now, the premise of this series is that Dimension W is the 4th dimension, which has been recently discovered, and within Dimension W is both nothing and everything. In other words, an unlimited source of energy. So they create these coils which harness the energy of Dimension W to produce electricity. But this technology is very dangerous because of the fact that if something goes wrong with the coils, the 4th dimension starts leaking out into the real world and wreaks havoc. Now, 5 years previous to the beginning of the series, the main character, Kiyoma, was a member of a team called Grendel, which ended the last great war of their era. And during that period of time, something or other happened with one of the first coils. In fact, I think it was supposed to be the prototype coil. And the island they were on, Easter Island, ended up being turned into nothing but wasteland, and basically that part of the world fell into what's called the void, where energy just dies. At the same time, a coil-related incident with his soon-to-be wife happened that killed her, and so he swore off of coils and started going back to the older technology of gasoline and everything else. So it's an interesting concept. He meets an android called Mira, and somehow she has some kind of connection to what happened 5 years ago. It's an interesting series. It's a mini-series. It's basically 60 volumes of a manga compressed down into 12 episodes of an anime. So the pacing definitely could have used some better work. I hope eventually they do a reboot or a remaster or just a reimagining of that, because I like the style, I really do, and I like the premise, but the pacing could have been better. Number 2 on my list is, Kaze no Stigma, or Stigma of the Wind. This one's a bit older. This one is about probably 6-7 years old now. I think it was back in 2010, anywhere from 2010 to 2012. Really cool series. It's basically the 4 elements can be controlled by different clans of magic users in this world. It's and there's this one man called Kazuma, who used to be a member of one of the local fire clans. He couldn't use fire, so he got kicked out of the clan. He ended up somehow gaining a contract with the major spirit king of the wind and becoming what's known as contractor, which means he can call upon the very powers of the deity that controls the wind. So they go along, and there's all this backstory, all this really cool magic. It's really awesome. I like it, and just like the previous series, it's got a blend of technology and magic and all kinds of stuff. It's really cool. The final series that it was going to be a top 5. It's going to be a top 3. The final series that I have been watching lately. Sorry, I'm getting hot in here. Is well, it's not a very it's not really a series as much as it is a movie. Wolf Children, or Okame Kodom. I'm gonna. You know what? Basically, it's Wolf Children. So this is one of the best of the newer generation of anime movies in the last 5 to 10 years that I think I've seen in recent years. So the premise is that the Japanese wolf that today is actually extinct, it wasn't just a regular old wolf, but the Japanese wolves were actually magical creatures that were half man, half wolf. They weren't werewolves per se, as so much as they were just changelings, able to change their form from human to animal at will. Okay, so the beginning of the story goes that Hana, the main character, the mother, ends up meeting her soon-to-be boyfriend and father of her children, and we never get his name. But they start dating, they start getting to know each other, and eventually he finally trusts her with his secret. So he takes her out under the stars and on some hill somewhere and shows her, I'm a wolf. And she obviously accepts him for who he is. And so they end up having 2 children, I'm assuming about a year apart, maybe a couple of years. But Ame, the younger, who is a boy, and then the older, Yuki, which is a girl. Soon after Ame's birth, judging by his size during this scene, the father ends up found dead, assumingly he was trying to hunt something, and because we see what looks like pheasant feathers on his body, and so assumingly he was trying to catch a pheasant and fell to his death, because that's the only explanation I can find. But so Hana tries to keep the kids safe and tries to raise them the best she can. However, living in a big city, it's dangerous leaving them at a daycare or anything, because of the fact that they too transform just like their father. And being kids, they don't really have much control over that power. So she ends up moving all the way to the country, and it's really difficult. She has to put blood, sweat, and tears into every moment being out there. She has to learn how to be a farmer and help out everyone else in the community up there. And as the children grow older, Yuki becomes more comfortable living in the world of the humans, while Ame, the younger, becomes more confident after being such a timid child, and becomes more affiliated with the wild, and eventually chooses to live in the wild. This is mainly after a conversation with their mother about, do you want to be wolves or people? And obviously, later, at the moment when they're young, the 2 children don't really understand the decision they're trying to make. But later on, they're when they're about to start middle school, they finally make a decision about who they want to be and where they want to belong. Although I do have a bit of a nitpick with that because, I mean, their father, who I'm going to name Okami because evidently someone or other mentioned him as having that name eventually. Okami never had to choose between wolf and human. He could do both. And granted, with the children, she had to be a bit more direct in that she had to have them choose because at that point it was either stay human and learn to remain human instead of at the drop of a hat becoming a wolf, or learn to be a wolf and remain in the wild. So I understand, but I think there could have been a middle ground where they could have just been them. They wouldn't have had to be Wolf Yuki or Wolf or Human Yuki or Wolf Ame or Human Ame, but they could have been just Ame and Yuki. But, you know, whatever. It's just a nitpick. But those are my top 3 anime that I've been watching lately, or that I have watched recently. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, check out the links in the description below to watch the series that I'm talking about. Also, check the links down below for my Patreon page and for my website, which I'll also link up in the, no I won't because I can't, but I'll also link my Patreon site up in the eye. And just thank you for watching. I hope you guys have a great night. This has been The Wandering Wind, and I will see you again in the next video.